There are many different iPads you can get now in 2024, but there's one that's really stood out to me, mainly for the value that it is, and that is the iPad 9th generation. I'm gonna go do a little quick review on this in terms of like battery life, performance. Is it still good in 2024? I've been an iPad kid ever since like the first grade, and I still use an iPad on an almost daily basis, even now as a freshman in college. So I'm just gonna tell you in the first place, like, these are definitely worth getting if you like having a tablet. I'm going to go first start off with the price. So you can pick up this iPad from Apple for $329. However, I would highly recommend buying it off of Amazon because on Amazon you can find it anywhere between $230 to $300, which is quite a big savings. Now, some people may wonder, like, that's kind of close to a Kindle, or like a Kindle's a lot cheaper. And I can just tell you from experience, as someone who's experienced both a Kindle and an iPad, spend the extra money and just get an iPad, or at least get a used one. And the reason why is performance is going to be a lot better, battery life is going to be a lot better, the screen's going to be bigger. There's so many different benefits that you're going to get by going to an iPad, and it's only like 50, maybe even 100, $150 more, which I know is a lot, but you are going to thank me later, and it is going to last you a lot longer and hold its value better. So the first thing I'm going to go over is performance, and performance on this thing is absolutely amazing for $329. Everything typically runs very smoothly. It's really good for like browsing the web and playing videos and stuff. The screen on it is absolutely amazing. The processor holds up very well for stuff like that. And even just about every single game on the App Store runs absolutely amazing on this thing. If games like Minecraft and PUBG, you may notice like a slight bump in performance if you get a nicer iPad. However, it's like not worth spending the few hundred extra just for that. Another thing too is schoolwork. I used an iPad 7th Gen for schoolwork, which I know is a bit older, but it held up very well for doing schoolwork on. And the only issues I've had with it dealt with the software my school wanted to use on it. And that was completely their fault for not like finding a good, software that's out there. But for majority of people, like schoolwork, everything is going to work absolutely amazing on this. Now, one thing I will kind of mention is if you're like the type of person who likes to type out their notes and stuff, don't get an iPad, get a used MacBook or another laptop, because just typing on this thing, like even with an external keyboard, it's not really that great. So definitely spend that extra money to get a laptop instead if you like typing out your notes. Moving on to specs, these iPads have a base storage of 64 gigabytes, which for most people that is going to be enough. If you do download like a ton of movies, you take a lot of photos and stuff, the next thing is going to be 256 gigabytes, but that's going to set you back about $480, which is a lot. There's also cloud storage too for like photos and movies and offloading apps and stuff. However, I really think 64 gigabytes for just about everybody out there is going to be enough. The only reason I see it being an issue is you have a ton of apps you want to download, like 30 plus different games and apps and stuff, and you're going to take a lot of photos and all that jazz. Like, that's when you may want to consider upgrading the storage, but 64 gigabytes is going to be enough for most people. Another upgrade you can get with this thing too is cellular. So cellular is like anywhere between 100, 150 extra, which is a lot. But then again, you also have to pay another $10 a month for a data plan with that. And what cellular gets you is access to the internet pretty much anywhere. So if you're on the go, or like you're a business who's doing field work and stuff, that access to the internet without having to go off a mobile hotspot is going to be handy and probably worth that extra cost. But for people who are just using this as like an at-home device and for consuming content, there's no real need for you to go out and spend that much extra money. And then something that's really amazing with this iPad is battery life. If you just did straight on web browsing, like straight on web browsing for 9 to 10 hours straight, it'll last you for that 9 to 10 hours. Another thing too is, going back to my use case of the iPad 7th Gen in high school, I only noticed I'd have to charge this iPad's batteries like every 2 to 3 days. And I'd use it quite often, quite frequently at school. So it's amazing that for $329, you can get a device that lasts you that much with battery life. Next, I'm gonna move on to the design, and the design does seem kind of dated on this compared to like the newer iPads like the iPad Pro and stuff. However, I think it still holds up very well even in 2024. One thing that's really nice about this design too is you have Touch ID. A lot of like the iPad Pros and stuff boot onto Face ID, or they have Touch ID located in a weird spot, but this is conveniently placed right down at the bottom here. You also still have like pretty good speakers. You even still have a headphone jack. Now, one thing I really want to mention too with this design, and it's probably going to be a huge plus for a lot of people, because the display on this is not laminated, it's a lot cheaper to repair if you break it. That might be a big reason for somebody to buy this over like an Air Pro, is if they break it, it's gonna cost more like $100 to replace instead of $300. And then one last thing I want to mention too is, if you're getting an Apple Pencil, make sure you get the Apple Pencil first generation. Don't get the second generation, don't get the USB-C, get the first generation, because that is the only Apple Pencil that's compatible with this iPad. Another thing too, and I think people should be aware about this before they buy, is when you're buying a case, don't get one of those all-in-one cases that have the built-in like flimsy plastic screen protector. Instead, get like a rugged folio case that has a cover and a separate tempered glass screen protector. And the reason why I say that is, and I speak from experience of, working at a phone repair shop, what happens is people will drop their iPad on like a rock or something, and those cases that have those flimsy plastic screen protectors built into them, they do not hold up or absorb that impact really whatsoever. But if you had a tempered glass screen protector and like kind of a rugged case with a folio, if you drop it, it's much more likely going to protect you from breaking your screen. So just keep that in mind when you are buying a case. Another piece of protection too you may want to consider buying for this is an Apple Care plan. So I just looked it up here. An Apple Care plan is $69 for 2 years, or if you like doing monthly, $3.50 a month. If you break your screen during those 2 years, you only have to pay an extra like $50 to replace it. Whereas if you broke the screen and it's out of that warranty range, you're looking at $250 to fix it, which is basically a new iPad. Or if you go to a third-party repair shop, you're looking at paying anywhere between like $120 to $150. So if you do think there is a chance that you might break this thing, definitely consider getting an Apple Care plan or some other protection plan. So in conclusion, the iPad 9th Gen is great for a majority of people. It'll last you quite a few years. The design really holds up well. The battery life still holds up well. The processor still holds up well, even in 2024, and this being released about 2 years ago. Now, if you do want to pick one of these up for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description where you can go do that. Thank you guys for watching, and happy geeking out with you.